Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I am travelling to Spain today. I'm actually going to squeeze in basically a day of work before my flight, which is at 4 p.m. So it's looking kind of busy. I've just been packing. I'm starting my day with one of these little Magic Mind matches. I don't know if you guys remember that I mentioned them when I was back in Dubai. I got some delivered to the UK because I'm remote working this entire summer, and basically they call themselves the world's first productivity drink, and they honestly taste so good. I'm gonna have mine with some almond milk, I think, but you can just drink it as they are, and it's a blend of matcha, adaptogens, nootropics, and kind of vitamin C and immunity vitamins and that kind of thing. All the things that I need basically for a summer of remote working. For those of you that don't know, I'm in London right now. I'm going to Spain today. We're going to Mallorca as well. We're going to Ibiza. So yeah, it's going to be busy, and I'm all whilst trying to keep up work, keep up my business, managing my team, etc. I think I have 2 client calls today and I have 1 big deadline today that I'm trying to hit. So I basically just want this kind of focused energy, and as you know, I am a coffee girl in the morning. Basically their whole thing is trying to give you sustainable energy that is not going to lead to caffeine crashes and this kind of thing, which I have experienced from having coffee, to be honest. So big fan of Magic Mind. You can definitely check them out. I'll put the link in the YouTube description for you so you can have a little look. But yeah, I've had these delivered to Dubai as well, if you're in Dubai and you're wanting to get your hands on some. So let's go make it. I'm gonna have it with some almond milk and have my breakfast. And I literally wrote myself out a little schedule for the day last night because it just makes me feel better having that kind of thing prepared. Please ignore my eyelashes, by the way. I'm about to give them a little touch up as well. So yeah, I packed last night. I am going to now have breakfast. Then next on my schedule is a client call. I'll probably take that from the hot desking place around the corner. And yeah, sorry, my voice is croaky because I literally just woke up, and I slept really well actually. I slept really deeply, which I'm pleased about because it's a busy day. Anyway, let's go have some matcha. So I'm now just walking to the hot desking. It's like a bar cafe thing. I think I've mentioned it on here before. So to just have a coffee and start doing some work. It's coming up to 9 a.m. here, which is actually 12 midday in Dubai. So that kind of, I don't like that. I don't mind it when I'm ahead, but when I'm behind, I feel like it makes me a bit more anxious because everybody's started already and I've not. But anyway, it's fine. I have massively reduced my workload for the summer while I'm remote working so that I can just not be too stressed out, etc. So I've actually just asked one of my team members to take one of the calls without me because I want to just get my head down and do some stuff with a coffee, etc. And yeah, I'm hoping to just tick a few things off in the morning, and then I also have to go to a tailor's around the corner because I got some really nice trousers from, where are they from? I got them on ASOS, but they're under the stories, and they were too long, so I've just got them taken up. So just in time for my trip, and I'll show you them later. I think I'm actually going to wear them on the flight because usually I'm just wearing like the most ugly sweatpants, comfy outfits, obviously. But yeah, they're quite smart, but they are very comfy as well. So might go for that. Hi guys, so I started this video and I was basically thinking this was going to be a vlog, but I was just thinking about it and I really think that now would be a good time to kind of go through the answer to one of the most common questions I always get, which is basically how do you remote work and just how do you do it and how do you travel so much? Because I do think from the outside it probably does look like all I do is travel and enjoy it and have fun, and I don't know, I feel like there's a lot that you don't necessarily see on Instagram stories and this kind of thing. So I thought I would just basically address that as a question and just, yeah, how do I travel? How do I manage my team and manage my social media agency and all the client work, and how do I actually do it remotely over the summer? Because if you remember, last year I also spent a long time remote working and this year is no different. So yeah, let's get into it.
And to give you a bit of a like real-time update, the first few clips I shot a few weeks ago before my trip to Spain, and we're now after that. So yeah, there's kind of a little difference in timing kind of, but I think now it's actually a better time for me to answer this question because I've kind of got a few more weeks of traveling to a few other countries, a bit more experience to answer this. So I'm going to go through this as separate tips. And tip number one, which I really feel like I'm still learning, is what I'm trying to say. I still need to learn this every single day, is about boundaries. Now, I think when you are managing your own time and working for yourself, there is no clear boundaries when what is work time and what isn't, like where is the line drawn, and you kind of need to set that for yourself, which is difficult, honestly. And I think when I first started out, I was constantly making myself available all the time. Sorry, I keep looking here when I should be looking here right at you. When I first started, I was literally making myself available round the clock. I basically did not even know what a boundary was. You couldn't have told me back then that I needed to, you know, set rules for myself and set boundaries for my clients, because I just wanted them to love working with me. I did not want them to feel like I was ever unavailable, but that is actually the opposite of how you should be, and something that I've kind of learned the hard way, I want to say. You basically need to set a really intentional line between work and not work, whatever it is, whether it's travel. For me, the past few weeks for me, it has been travel. But you basically need to dedicate the time in your day that works for you when that is going to be your work time. Now for me, it is basically morning time, and I will always use the morning as my time of day to that is when I'm most creative. And this kind of brings me into my second point, which is basically routine. So when you're traveling, you don't usually, this is obviously massive generalization, but usually people aren't really sticking to their routines. You know, you're not necessarily like going to the gym every morning like you would at home. This is literally me, by the way. Like, I do find it difficult to stick to routine, but find little moments where you can. So I'm going to use an example for me is when I have the morning, I usually like to just have a coffee and go through my to-do list, no matter where I am in the world, no matter what I'm doing that day, even on the weekends, and it's only fun stuff I've got to do. I just like to plan my day, and that is because I probably am quite type A, I would say. I'm quite a type A person, but routines are honestly lifesavers. So every day starts with my to-do list, what I need to get done that day. I like to do that with my morning coffee. For me, that is just such an anchor point in my day. But for you, you might do this the night before. You might find that you're really creative and focused in the evening. So it's really understanding what works for you, and then identifying these points in your day where you can remote work. And I think the mornings has worked so well for me because, as it happens, I'd say often when I'm traveling, with my best friend Kirsty or with Connor, usually they'll just have a little lie-in in the morning. Obviously when they're not remote working, and then that's my time to just, not be the boring one. I'm not being antisocial, because I'm letting them getting some sleep, and meanwhile I'll probably get up and just go and get things done, and then I can be really present in the afternoon and not feel like it's just a horrible feeling, when you're trying to have fun, or you're trying to go to whatever it is, whatever activity it is, like a tour or a destination or a sightseeing spot, and you're not fully there because you're thinking about something. That is the worst, and I would say that is what we're trying to avoid when we're remote working, is that feeling of not being present, because if you're not present, then kind of what's the point? Moving on to my next point. Now, I kind of mentioned this at the start of this video, but basically time zones are either going to be your best friend or your worst enemy, and I think this is something that it's worth researching actually before your trip. And this is now kind of what I do. If I'm going to go somewhere like America, I've now done remote working trips to America, I think 4 times, and honestly it's my least favorite place to remote work from because of the 11-hour time difference to Dubai, which I find so challenging. Because if you're getting, for me, the worst feeling is when you've been asleep and then you wake up in the morning and you've got a million WhatsApps and emails of things that have happened while you've been asleep. For me, that's really anxiety inducing. So now when I'm traveling somewhere a bit more far away, I will definitely try to take that time off as annual leave and not as like remote working time, which is just personal preference. I'm not saying it's not doable. There's going to be a few more tips which talk about communication, but I think for me that is just something I've kind of learned. Similarly, in a way, when I was in Thailand, that's kind of 3 hours ahead, I actually kind of really enjoyed that, because I felt like I could get the head start on the day before everyone else, but then it would kind of shoot me in the foot when it got later in the evening and everyone's still working, and I'd find myself just still working and just working really long days. So again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about boundaries, but yeah, it's a tricky one. The time zones are either going to help you or not so much, so it's something to consider when you're planning your like remote work trips. Speaking of planning, this is going to sound so obvious, but I feel like I had to include it just because I had this absolute nightmare when we went to Saint-Tropez, me and Kirsty. The vlog is up, by the way, so you can go and watch that video. We had so much fun. But we booked an Airbnb, and I kind of feel like it goes without saying that all Airbnbs would have Wi-Fi, but apparently not. We got there on the first day and we were like, oh, by the way, what's the Wi-Fi password? And the host was like, oh, there is no Wi-Fi. It never said Wi-Fi on the listing. And we were kind of like, well, yeah, because we didn't even think to check, like everywhere does, but that is not the case. So do double check. Don't be caught out like me, and do check, because honestly, this was actually really difficult because not only was there no Wi-Fi in the actual Airbnb itself, but also I was doing my thing where I get up in the morning and I go and find a little spot and a coffee. Literally nowhere had Wi-Fi, nowhere even opened like that early. I usually, like now that I'm here in London, I go to this hot desking place around the corner that opens at 8 a.m. That was the one that I was going to at the start of this video. But literally, like, nowhere was open until like 10 a.m. And for me, I'm like, that's like 2 hours of good solid work time that I could be doing, and I could, have my magic mind, have my coffee, whatever, and kind of use that time. But no. So I just want you to learn from my mistakes and double check, and also think about that. If you're planning to go find somewhere that's like a quiet space, you need to identify those places like before the shift, if you like, whatever shift you're going to be using, whether it's morning, afternoon. Now let's do a quick note on communication. Now I feel like I'm definitely still learning in this area, and I'm always going to be learning, but now I'm managing a team. I've got 3 employees, 1 assistant, and I've got multiple clients, so I'm doing a lot of communication day in, day out. Now, one thing I did, this is such a big tip for me. If you have a work phone, do it on your work phone only, but for me, I was only on my personal phone, but I have like focus mode, like work mode, night mode, all these different modes for the notifications, so that you can kind of help set your own boundaries. And then another thing that I found so helpful was to get an eSIM for the whole of Europe, so that for my whole 2-month summer period while I'm in London, Spain, France, Italy, I will have data connection everywhere I go, which I honestly, well, apart from literally in the mountains of Mallorca and some places in Saint-Tropez, but that's a separate point. What I'm trying to say is I did find it overall really helpful. So I would say getting an eSIM is really helpful if you are somebody that needs to be answering questions, approving things, checking things like me. Then you'll want to be able to do that from your mobile. You don't want to be like having to ask for the Wi-Fi code or log on to your laptop or whatever it is all the time. Definitely just get an eSIM so that you can reply to WhatsApps wherever you are. It's honestly been a bit of a crazy struggle, and I'm still learning, but like I think getting ahead is such a big tip, and I do want to do this more. But there was a few times like this trip where I'd be literally trying to make changes and literally work, like amend the work, kind of do client feedback while I'm literally at a beach club or trying to have fun, and that is what you want to avoid. So take it from me, try and get ahead, get all your approvals done beforehand, and don't be like trying to do things while you're having fun. It's honestly not ideal. There's also a few tools and things that if anybody's interested, you might like to know what me and my team are using. We're using Asana for tracking and managing all of our projects, which I prefer because I feel like it's so annoying as a manager when you have to just keep WhatsApping and being like, now do this, now do that, now do this. So I feel like having a space where you can just assign tasks and they can assign it back to you is honestly amazing. So I would definitely recommend that for anyone that's managing a team remotely. And then we actually do a lot of our communication on WhatsApp, but I know that there are other tools that you might like to use to make that separate, make that differentiation, like Slack or maybe Google Chat. But personally, we actually do use WhatsApp because that's a very UAE thing to use and a very Dubai approach, I think. So yeah, that's basically all my points. Sorry, I'm just looking here because I made like notes of what I wanted to say to you guys. But that's basically it. Like, if you've been wondering how I've been managing to stay up to date with everything that I've got going on, still managing to have so much fun and remote work, then I hope that is a bit of an insight into my world for the past few weeks. And I'd love to answer your questions. If you've got any questions for me, I'm actually recording an episode of my podcast not tomorrow, the day after, Wednesday, so I can answer any of your questions that you have for me, anything about remote working or finding work to do remotely, or just let me know what you're up to. I'd love to read your comments. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.